we do want to get right to our top story, and that is the overnight developments in the coronavirus outbreak as the number of cases and deaths jump once again. Here is the very latest. There are now 334 confirmed cases of coronavirus here in the U.S. Overnight, 2 more deaths were reported, this time in Florida. These are the first deaths outside of the West Coast and brings the total deaths to 17.
Meanwhile, 900,000 test kits have been delivered and another 200,000 are expected to be handed out later today. This does fall short of the 1.5 million that had been promised by week's end. And ESPN is reporting that the NBA is telling teams they should be prepared for the possibility of playing games in empty arenas because of coronavirus concerns. LeBron James said last night he wouldn't play if there weren't fans in the stands.
There are a lot of rapidly moving developments, and we have it all covered for you this morning. We do want to begin with NBC's Steve Patterson. He's in San Francisco, where that cruise ship is still waiting offshore. Steve, good morning to you. What's the latest there?
And Jose, Christian, we've just had our first round of testing on board that ship, but health officials are saying eventually everyone will be tested and treated as necessary, as that ship is scheduled to dock at some point this weekend, but when and where exactly remains a mystery. The sum of so many fears now floating just 45 miles off the California coast. The first tester in, and the coronavirus is on board the Grand Princess.
We are a sick ship, apparently.
Princess Cruises confirming 21 people tested positive for the virus, including 19 crew members out of a test sample of just 45 people.
We apologize, but we were not given advance notice.
Passenger Chris Hall says he learned the news not from the ship, but from the vice president.
It was frustrating that the captain, the cruise line, didn't let us know first.
The Coast Guard delivered tests in dramatic fashion, but not enough for all 3,500 people on board. Quarantined just off of San Francisco, waiting further test kits to arrive. Now, more anxiety.
There's a little uncertainty that, have we been exposed to it? Do we have it?
At least 10 passengers from a previous trip who were on the same ship also tested positive. One died after disembarking. Meanwhile, the crisis spreading across Washington state with more than 80 confirmed cases. 2 new nursing homes in Seattle announcing positive patients after a week of misery at the Life Care Center in Kirkland. Most of the state's 14 deaths tied here. Friday, officials say 15 patients were rushed to the hospital in 24 hours. 89-year-old Elaine Herrick died.
As far as we knew, she wasn't sick. So I was surprised.
The outbreak now prompting a major change at 3 college campuses. Stanford, USC, and the University of Washington canceling in-class courses starting next week. Overnight, the U.S. death toll rising to 17, with 2 deaths reported in Florida. There are now more than 300 cases nationwide and over 100,000 cases worldwide. From Los Angeles, where a second screener at LAX tested positive, to New York, where city officials are pleading for more federal testing kits. Fears from the virus now leading to the cancellation of major events like South by Southwest. Austin's Megatech meetup canceled for the first time in its 34-year history. And capping a tumultuous week on Wall Street, with the Dow falling more than 250 points Friday. All as passengers floating aboard the Grand Princess hope for solid ground.
We're just ready to get off of the ship and I guess move forward.
All this while the virus continues upending the economy. Things like airline sales and hotel prices are plummeting. Rideshare drivers are desperate for work. And eBay is banning things like hand sanitizer and face masks because so many people have been price gouged by all this panic buying. And it's not getting a whole lot better out there, guys.
Yeah, sending jitters all across the country. Steve Patterson, thank you for that report.
Well, meanwhile, President Trump seems to be at odds with his own team overseeing the coronavirus crisis. The president on Friday saying that they have plenty of test kits, enough for anyone who needs one. But that doesn't appear to be the case at this time. NBC's Hans Nichols is traveling with the president. He is in West Palm Beach. Hans, good morning.
Good morning, Jose. The president is monitoring the response to the coronavirus from here in Florida, where those 2 deaths have been reported. Now, yesterday he visited the CDC, where he gave himself high marks for his handling of the crisis and tried to reassure Americans that the risk of contracting it was low.
After touring tornado damage in Tennessee, President Donald Trump traveled to the CDC in Atlanta, where he touted the accuracy and availability of the coronavirus test.
Anybody that needs a test gets a test. They're there. They have the tests. And the tests are beautiful.
Vice President Mike Pence later forced to clarify that tests would only be given on doctor's orders.
If you have reason to believe that you have been exposed to the coronavirus, I have every confidence that your physician would contact state health officials and have access to the state lab.
Pence said that 900,000 tests have been shipped out to states this week, with 200,000 more expected today, short of the 1.5 million officials had initially promised by the end of the week. Senator Patty Murray from hard-hit Washington state visibly frustrated.
Don't tell us things that are not true.
During his visit to the CDC, President Trump urging passengers on the Grand Princess cruise ship off California to stay at sea.
I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault.
And warning Vice President Mike Pence about Washington Governor Jay Inslee.
That governor is a snake. I said, if you're nice to him, he will take advantage.
And comparing the test kits at the CDC to his phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky, which led to his impeachment.
The tests are all perfect. Like the letter was perfect. The transcription was perfect.
Before leaving the White House, Trump signed an $8.3 billion emergency coronavirus aid package, while also asking Americans not to panic.
Be calm. It'll go away.
His senior advisors also downplaying the risk of contagion.
It is being contained.
But there is concern about cruises. Yesterday, Vice President Mike Pence urged Americans to take caution, especially older Americans. He called cruises a unique challenge. And today, he'll be meeting with executives from the cruise line industry here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. Guys?
Hans, in the middle of the coronavirus crisis, there's been a shakeup at the White House. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, the new Chief of Staff will be Mark Meadows. Mick Mulvaney is out. This had long been speculated about. There have been reports about this. We actually heard from Mulvaney in Oxford last month saying that the term for any Chief of Staff is low. Now, Meadows is a political animal. He's widely regarded as being pretty savvy on the politics, and he and the president appear to have a personal connection, and this will be the team heading in to the re-election. Guys?
Hans Nichols at West Palm Beach, thank you very much.
Now we want to bring in Joseph Fair. He's a virologist and NBC News science contributor specializing in emerging viruses. Joseph, good morning. Thank you so much for being here on a very busy day. We just heard Kellyanne Conway say that the virus has been contained. Can you speak to that? Has this virus been contained, or are we still expecting this to get worse before it gets better?
It's definitely going to get worse before it gets better. We know that this virus infects 2 to 3 people per infection. So if we have 100 cases right now, you can extrapolate that we have at least 300 cases or 400 cases that we don't know about. So cases popping up in states, my own birth state of Kentucky last night just had their first case, et cetera. So obviously, if it was contained, we wouldn't see those new cases popping up everywhere. And that's without us rolling out broad diagnostics yet. So that indicates once we get those diagnostics out there, we're probably going to find a lot more than we even think we have now.
So first steps talking about containment, but then there's also the issue of testing, right? And how to keep the virus away. Even Dr. Fauci yesterday said that there had been some government missteps. What are those missteps?
To be frank, the way we rely on testing in this country, at least, and we're relying on the CDC to produce and manufacture its own kits, whereas the rest of the world has frankly gone with commercial kits. And for example, I've been working in the Congo for the last year. We had testing up and running in the Congo in the first week of February.
Do they exist for the coronavirus commercially now?
They do. And the majority of the world is using the commercial assay, which has been proven very effective. So there is a difficulty in what we call homebrew kits, which you manufacture in-house, say at the CDC, et cetera. And that's what we experienced early on, is we had some problem with those homebrew kits.
I think a lot of people were concerned when they started to see these big conferences starting to get canceled. South by Southwest, for example. Some people are canceling travel and taking other measures. Is this the appropriate way to respond, or are there other things that people should be doing, or is this an overreaction?
It's definitely not an overreaction. The way that I try to express this is, as an individual, 80% we know are going to be fine with this disease. That being said, you can still infect those that are the most at risk for the disease and underlying conditions, et cetera. So it comes down to the individual. You have to have protection against protection yourself. If you are ill, consider canceling. If you're immunocompromised or have any kind of underlying conditions, definitely consider canceling any kind of trip or going to a mass gathering.
All right. Well, great information this morning. Joseph Fair, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you
We
both.
really appreciate it. And we will have much more on the coronavirus crisis throughout the morning. And you can watch a special On Assignment with Richard Engel as Richard goes inside the fight to contain the coronavirus. That's tomorrow night at 10 Eastern on MSNBC.